McInnes, bonjour, Mr. Betou. We're going to talk for 20 minutes about the future of the air industry. You're president of Safran, and we'll talk about the air and space industry because Safran is #1 in aero engine or cradles, cabin outfitting, including for helicopters, dashboards, and so on and so forth. You're a major player of that industry in the world, 25 billion turnover. And the air industry is clearly at the core of questions. So there's an issue today. I mean, clearly this industry is on the ground, and tomorrow there will be restrictions that will be imposed to flights because now planes are guilty of damaging the planet. How do you feel? Well, let me nuance a large part of what you've just said. First, let's look at what we've done in the last few years. The air industry is one of the aspects of happy globalization. Think about democratization of flights. The Gulf workers, Indonesians, Indians, Filipinos, who could not travel, and today they can travel in good conditions. Think about tourists as well, young tourists, not so young in all developed countries. So we are another aspect of happy globalization is standards. We have global standards. We by definition, yes. I mean, it is by definition it has to be global. You have to have global standards. And now we paid the price at the time of the Concorde. I was about to say, I hope you're going to be right for the future, but it's quite possible that one of the elements of a fracture between the US and China could possibly challenge some aspect of the homogeneousness of standards, form of a normative protectionism. It could be an impact. It could be an impact. So let's not think that what has been acquired so far is there forever. You say happy globalization, but it so happens that today, again, between brackets, global confinement or lockdown, but in the medium term and for years to come, the air industry as a major topic, which is now the environmental impact. I don't know if it collided with us by surprise, because first, we were getting ready for it, and for a long time. So I'd like to insist on what we've done. Do you know that an Airbus A320 today from Orly to Toulouse produces 82 CO2 less than a Caravelle doing the same flight 50 years ago? So due to the aero engines, in planes, there are thousands and thousands of components, but the engine has improved, or is it all the design, everything? I'm not saying Safran did all this. The engine, of course, the aerodynamics, CX, air traffic control, and this is where we could certainly improve things. It is not just one player. I'm not talking there on behalf of Safran. I'm talking about aeronautic at the broad meaning of the word. Look at what we've done, and we've addressed. We've entered 2020. Those who came to the Bourget Air Show in last June, yes, in 2019, saw it in the equipment. We are getting ready, thanks to R&D budgets quite high, which will be, and thanks to the plans of the French government to support to the air industry, R&D efforts which will be preserved, but we are getting ready. We have collective commitments now, carbon neutrality in 2050. So with such a high growth of air traffic means that we will, versus we'll have to reduce by 90% the reduction of our planes. Feasible, less flights or less consumptions. Well, it is certainly the second aspect, because people want to fly. They will want to fly. And I think not only people will not fly less, they will fly more. New air mobility, which is taking shape between diesel truck delivering in Paris and a hybrid drone that would deliver 400 kilos of payload between Rungis and the center of Paris. What will you choose? that will be soon, very soon, because, you know, in the air industry, times are longer, but we'd say 10 years. 10 for such topics would be closer than that, but for a plane, short range, medium range plane, Paris-Toulouse, today, we are starting, well, for a few years now, you know, even more today, we are getting ready for the 2035 medium range plane. What are the characteristics? Again, the topic is traveling differently, flying differently, but consuming less, but more smarter consumption. So how will this be done? Well, we don't know how to say it today. This is why companies like ours have to look in several directions, because technologies will mature as we go. But, you know, you're right to mention it, the fact that what produces less is what we don't consume. And the air engine improvements have led to 15% between the LEAP CFM 56, LEAP CFM 56 are types CFM 56. It is the most widely sold in the world, and the successor is the LEAP, and between the two there will be 15 consumption less. So for over the same period, in the next 15 years, we'll get to less 30%. That will be the best savings. This is what you're not consuming. Then fuels. Will there be coming from biomass synthesis or food stuff? Or one of the reasons why nothing's clear defined yet, or hydrogen presents a lot of interest, but for batteries, there is a problem of weight and power distribution. So we need to deal all those topics at once, so that in 15 years, we'll get to a result that will make it possible to match our commitments. So we'll discuss this. Well, there will be a loss of habit in the mind of people, but anyway, we'll come back to it. So, in the automotive industry, there was a real shift, a change, sometimes imposed, sometimes selected by Tesla, for example, which is causing a trend, you know, or a fad, you know, especially in the sections, to have quotas of electric cars now. But the automotive industry did the quantum leap to electrical cars. Can it happen in the air industry? Again, time scales are longer in the air industry. Automotive models are renewed more rapidly. A plane, minimum 30 years. And that's a new plane. It will fly for 30 or even 50, but the plane itself, Airbus A320 today, or the 737, will have a lifespan of 50 to 60 years. So beyond that, once that fleet will be depleted, then we can imagine there will be a change of generation. Well, it will be incremental. Don't expect 50 years. Nobody wants that. Is there someone mad like Elon Musk in the air industry would have some kind of a challenge, say, let's go, say, planes tomorrow will all be electrical? Well, I'll let you choose the expression, but in the air industry, in the aero engine world, you know, basically, you know, the air engine manufacturers, the same since the Second World War. Only the US, France, and to a lesser extent the United Kingdom and Russia, who know how to build a full plane and a full engine. Chinese are working at it, but they have not done it yet. Chinese planes fly with European engines. Yeah, the Comac, which will be the A320 Chinese will work with the LEAP, will fly with a LEAP engine. So of course it is quite a specific technology. outlets are little, I mean limited. So there are few aircraft manufacturers in the world. So it is quite a rather limited market. So how come there's not been sort of a rupture technology or new mode of construction, or a country would have tried to enter this market? Well, China is doing that. They're getting in, and they will do it. They will make it. I would like to insist, but not for the last 70 years. No. Other examples in the industry? Not that I know. Possibly in the nuclear industry. Yeah, possibly in the nuclear industry. Well, of course, but not since for 70 years. But nothing comes to mind. So, sorry, but are you happy for the coming decades? This is not tranquility. I'm just saying that in the last few years, there's been no new player. The technological barriers are very, very high, very strong. In order for from the private world to enter this domain, they will need for time lots of money. And truth is that our industries were built in the past with public money. It applies to Safran with the former SNECMA, so with the result from Pompidou's industrial policies. Even in the U.S., U.S. took advantage from the U.S. taxpayer for space industry or for the Air Force, for example. So, and space and defense, get a lot of money from U.S. taxpayers, and they can finance their R&D projects. What happened? I mean, I'm sure you won't be able to flag your competitors, but what happened with the 737 MAX? With the external eye, we thought, okay, what madness to get there. How did they get there? I mean, how can such industrial accident be achieved such a serious level? And that is about to, Mr. Vetu, you will understand it is not for me a supplier partner long term of to answer the question. You know what happened? No, I don't. No, I don't know. And I don't want to talk about that. Were you surprised by what happened? Well, everybody was surprised. Everybody was surprised, but I won't say anymore. You talked about new mobility early on with an example that is not that mobility of people, but of goods, drone between Rungis and Paris. But tomorrow, this drone could be a taxi with passengers, human passengers. So this is what scale? No, it's, let me take the example of drones with goods. We talk about the environment. I think between diesel truck and the drone, you would rather have an electrical drone. What type of new mobility will come, in your opinion? Well, I took the example of drones with goods or passengers, but helicopters already. We have the hybrids hybrids between electrical and conventional thermal engines, less noisy, they consume less, they emit less, and this could be expanded. Again, we are a long-term industry. It could be applied to regional planes, because one of the challenges of batteries, the size is associated with the range and the payload. So it will talk by segment: drones, taxis, possibly the small. We start with the smallest and the closest. I mean, shorter trip, small term. I mean. Now, one question about, in line with what you said, is the green plane a reality? Could a green plane exist? Planes today, the example of the Caravelle, a plane is much more greener and more silent. The sound imprint of A320 is exceptional. So, for reasons which were economical and for access to airport, our economy is going greener and greener. Will you rely on this type of reasoning or demonstration to restore your image that you've lost? I mean, you are one of the mode of consumption which characterizes a form of growth that that should be reversed to degrowth. How did you lose your image? Planes were like magic, flying, going to far away countries. Today it's like a sin almost. Yeah. Well, a Sunday, Dimanche only, a song, in the. So, no, but I think your viewpoint is quite European. It's very European, if I may say so. You will not hear the same thing in Indonesia. You won't hear the same thing in the Filipinos or in India. You won't hear that in China. Now, will you put the Indonesians into their pirogues to go from one island to the next, to another in the archipelago? Are you going to prohibit populations to gain access to happiness of being new middle class to fly? I think we should not transpose to the world some of the elements you mentioned. It's like a rich man's attitude. Well, possibly there is a dimension of guilt. I'm referring to Philippe Manier's paper in this Figaro this morning, who explained that in certain aspects, some reactions, ecological reactions, were very much like you have to pay for a sin, for a fault. It's very European. Okay, but it's a fact. So now, are you going to turn this image, which is now a bit blurry, and are you going to, and which has been fed by confinement? Well, with facts, the one I've just mentioned, which could be unknown, poorly known, but we represent 2% of CO2 emissions. And in your question, it says, is it a rich man's concern? Well, it's a target which is easy because a plane is a good it's visible. You see it fly. You see the trail in the sky. You can hear it sometimes. So it's easier to target a plane than to talk about the real topics, which are the buildings, like buildings or offices, because that's a true topic, because in terms of CO2 is something much more important. And I think it is an object which is easier to blame, but will respond with facts. And it's all very well because technology makes it possible. The genius of men and women will lead us to it. And I think we should talk to our citizens, to the air industry. I said it since 1945. We French in the head team. One word about the future, medium, short term, or long term, sorry. The air industry is on the ground because of the confinement, at least in Europe, the lockdown in Europe. Lockdown, sorry, we're facing major problems, layoff, so how long to get back to track, to fly back? I mean, in your medium-term scenario, when will it be over? We are working on it. We're working at it. We are still in a blurry situation. Again, be careful about the Eurocentric vision of your diagnostic, if you don't mind. In China today, the proportion of flights, normal flights, is between 65 and 75%. In Europe today, flights about 10%. Again, on July 1st, borders, intra-Schengen borders will open up. And when you look at countries like India or the US, in the US, for example, it never went below 30, 40%. Well, the European situation is very specific because of the geography and the different decision makers. It's a vision which is distorting reality. Yet, what's the year of recovery? 2023 to 2024 to get back to close to 2019. Are you saying today that clearly we'll pull out of it? Oh, absolutely, we'll pull out of it. And in fact, it is a duty. Let me remind you, French pride, European success. It is a beautiful plane. Let's not cut off the wings of this plane. Thank you.